Developing a film character. When we write a story and feel it's not quite complete, a good approach to enrich the story is to examine its elements. This could involve pondering the theme, the message, and so on. But another method is to focus on character development. Understanding your characters can elevate your film, as it lets you see the film from their point of view. We often overlook that we watch films primarily for the characters, not just the plot. What was the last outstanding film you saw? Perhaps a more revealing question would be, who was the last memorable character you encountered in a film? If you're working on a film character, here are some techniques to delve into their persona. Step into the shoes of your character by simply imagining you are them. Before doing this, I recommend conducting as much research as you can. What major and minor life events do you know about them? In the following example, I've placed myself in my grandfather's shoes and imagined how moments in his life might have looked like during a random winter day back in the 1950s. After you've placed yourself into your character's shoes, write down what you have observed. Please note that there's a big difference between thinking about this exercise and just writing down what comes to mind. Don't confuse thinking and visualizing.
So for this exercise, I decided to imagine a day in the life of my grandfather. He came from a farming community on the west coast of Iceland, where I grew up. And I wanted to study his character and also just kind of remind myself of where I come from. So I asked my mother for insight into his life, her father. And she told me about a day, a winter day in the 1950s. And her description helped me reimagine it for the sake of gaining a perspective into my grandfather's character. I imagined myself slowly descending towards the farmhouse where my grandfather and grandmother lived in a cold climate back in the day in Iceland. So I settled into one day. So I imagined that I would travel towards their house or a farmhouse. And when I was inside the house, I felt a smell that reminded me of my childhood. When I was in all these kind of farmhouses, there was hints of smell of old leather, dirt, and also a hint of sulfur from their burning heaters. So placing myself in the footsteps of the character of my grandfather, I inhaled the scent and looked out the window. And outside the window, because my grandfather was a priest, I saw a church, I would say about 100 meters from the house. I placed myself in the shoes of my grandfather and I imagined being him. I dressed up in warm wool clothes and walked out the house and into the afternoon twilight. I felt my cold fingers beneath the gloves where I removed the snow, blocking the path that would lead up to the church entry. After I cleared the path, I was hungry, and I went inside back to the house to find something to eat. I listened to an old clock in the house and the sounds of other people talking in side rooms. I ate the remnants of a sheep's head. It was pretty common back in the day. And I drank pitch black coffee with an overload amount of sugar as I looked out the window again. This time not towards the church, but to the farmhouse with the livestock. So boom, I'm back outside and I hear the sound of hard snow breaking under my feet. Then I see day give into night. And I saw my old Jeep car buried in snow and thought that I would have to pluck it out later and warm it up. But I doubt actually I could go anywhere at all because there was heavy snow all over. On my way to the farmhouse, I squinted my eyes during the harsh twilight transition. It made me think of people who had ventured to claim the North Pole. Now I'm just in the mindset of my grandfather. When I was in the farmhouse, working with the livestock and preparing food, I listened to the sheep and cows, and I heard them chewing and breathing at the same time. Then I noticed a loyal dog had been following me the whole time. His eyes offering a hug whenever I would feel alone. I thought that my back would hurt with the constant strain of carrying the manure and food from the barn to the main house. I would also have to prepare a horse, maybe, and settle in at the church if someone in the community would die or want to get married. So after imagining this day, I know more about my grandfather because I placed myself in his shoes. And on a personal note, I appreciate my grandfather's resilience. And I also learned how much I admire what he did for the community where I grew up. So this was a little character study, placing yourself in the shoes of the character. And I just wanted to visit my grandfather. And I encourage you to do your own study in your own terms for your film.